episode of The Page, Season 2, The Block, S.A Chakraborty, Part 2, the Deavabad series. I like that. The Deavabad series. The Kingdom of Copper. I like that. Last time was City of Brass. Oh, it's a metal theme. Oh my god. Maybe next time we're going to talk about gold. Woo. I love the puns. But, ladies and gentlemen, you guys know I don't do this show alone. So I would like to introduce the beautiful, the talented, the magical, the mystical, the whimsical, the abominable, the intransical LB. How's it going?
I'm doing well. That was only 7. I was expecting 45.
I know. I had to cut a lot because if we were just like 45, we're like, okay, we're done. Okay, bye guys. See you on the next one. Yeah. So this is the Kingdom of Copper.
Yes.
All right, good.
Kingdom of Copper. We had Palace of Brass or something.
City of Brass. How dare you? How dare you?
We got City Kingdom, and then we've got Gold next time, right?
Yeah, right. So,
Empire. I see what they're doing. They're going from city to kingdom to empire.
Yeah, that's right. So, for new viewers and followers and members to the group, because there's a lot of you guys. For those of you that don't know what's going to go on, we're going to be, just talking about this book, what we liked, what we didn't like, in a way of check marks and X's. And then at the end, we're going to give this novel a recommend, a not recommend, a thumbs up, like this, or a thumbs down. So...
Epic thumbs down.
Yeah, so it's 98 degrees in the studio. It's 98 degrees, yeah. It's hot. So LB is gonna go a little bit in the book, because we did go, a lot, into this, in this author in part 1 of the Deavabad series, but she's just gonna give you a brief rundown, and then she's gonna kick us off with our first positive. So I'll hand it to LB.
Alrighty, hi guys. So yeah, if you didn't catch that, if you want to get a bit more of a brief bio than anything of S.A Chakraborty, you can on the first section of this block. And so, okay, what happens in Kingdom of Copper? Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
A lot of things happen.
A lot of things happen. Something that's interesting about this one that I find you don't see an awful lot in a lot of books is in the beginning of this book, we jump ahead 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, it's we left off last time. All this stuff was happening. We had a big battle. We had all this drama, and all of a sudden we're jumped ahead. Now, if you don't know, you should know by now that there's spoilers.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to write it in the fucking description.
It's okay. Now you know.
And knowing's half the battle.
Pardon?
And knowing's half the battle. And now you know.
Knowing is half the battle. See? Now you know.
G.I. Joe.
Now you know G.I. Joe. Is that a thing?
Yeah. So at the end of the cartoons, it's like, now you know. And knowing's half the battle. G.I. Joe!
I was not aware.
Well,
wow.
Now you know.
I learned something today. Thank you. Now I know G.I. Joe. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens in this book? So we primarily focus on the actual city itself, on oh my god, I've forgotten the name of the city. It's not Deavabad.
Yeah, it's Deavabad.
The city's not called Deavabad.
Yeah, it is.
It's Deavabad. Okay,
yeah.
Why did I think it wasn't? Oh, god. Today is not a day for me knowing things, apparently. But we start it basically all revolves around Deavabad. However, we do step outside of it. We start with Dara actually coming back to life. He's reincarnated as his like original form.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. And we also have Nahri as like doing her thing, married Muntadir, as she said she was going to. And Ali was exiled. However, the major
comes
action
back.
that happens there, he comes back. He gets found by some kindly people.
Sadly.
And yeah, he's not doing great. He's kind of bleeding all over the place. But because, as we know now, he's being like infected by a merid or possessed or whatever you want to say. So the little oasis has cropped up around him. These people find him, save him, and then he ends up basically saving these townships that are in the desert by, finding water sources.
Yeah.
He makes them because he's a water serpent.
Yeah.
But finding these water sources, and so, getting the love of people. And yeah, so we go from there. He's basically tricked into coming back to Deavabad. I'm not going to go into too many details because I wanted to sort of do a big brush over. He comes back. Obviously, Ghassan's not too happy about that, King Ghassan. And Muntadir is thinking that he's here to overthrow the throne. He's not. It's just that he had to come back because someone left some stuff in his place, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, drama happens, and Ali and Nahri, they decide they're going to reopen a Nahid hospital, basically. They're working on that, working with the Shafit. Obviously, no one likes that because they're all assholes and they're classist. But there's this big festival that happens, Navastain. And on the second day of that is when we see
shit go down.
The one and only, shit go down.
Yeah.
But we see for the first, in this book is when we see for the first time Manizhe. And she's mentioned in the first book. She's supposed to be dead. She's not dead, though. Spoiler, we told you. She's not dead. She's been planning this whole attack with, oh my gosh.
Deavabad.
No, not, although you love saying that. One more time.
Deavabad. That's my new name. No, it's not.
With Dara, yes, but with Kaveh.
Yeah.
And all that lot. So, they're planning this big attack. They do it on the second day of this massive festival. All hell breaks loose. And then we discover, how to get the seal of Suleiman. Nahri ends up getting it and then forcing Ali to wear it. There's this whole big scene in the palace where they have this massive battle. Then they jump off a building. And the book's done.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happens in the book.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's other stuff in there. I suggest you read it if you want to know.
Yeah.
But with all of that being said, I guess we can get into our first check marks.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
Yep. Sounds good with me.
Okay. So for me, I'm going to start at the end. I love how she's got the seal being like in the king's heart. Like it's very like, metaphorical and poetic, but it's like literally you got to cut out the king's heart to get the ring. And that's how you that's how you rule over the kingdom. I love how they had it too, because it's like, that's so very clearly something that only the Nahids could actually, survive, because they ruled by council with one of them staying in the city, and apparently the seal has to stay in the city, so one person would stay in the city for a number of years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that person was done ruling, per se, or done being the person that was in the city carrying the seal, then the Nahids would, cut out their heart, take the ring out, and then presumably put the heart back in, fix it all up, you're all good to go.
Yeah.
And put the ring in another person's heart.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very clearly like a Nahid thing that only they could do. However, the Katanis have come in and taken it, and obviously it's taken on this much more brutal thing. Like, no one can survive their heart being cut out.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not really something you can share.
Yeah.
That way. So I love that sort of little piece of lore that she added in there. I loved the scene that they had with that happening. I thought that was really cool. I like that aspect. That was a check mark for me.
So my next check mark is going to be following up on something I said when we were first jumping into this series, The King.
Okay, yeah. The King, yeah.
I love The King, not because I don't think she intended to the King come off as cool as he did in this book, but to me, I didn't think the King was like per se evil or benevolent.
No,
but I was saying, I said this in when we talked about the City of Brass. He's just stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he's trying to do the best he can. And he's just written so cleverly and so well in the book.
Absolutely.
He's just like, I know everything, dude. Like and then when he confronts his son he's like, he just so, when he speaks so calculating, and he's, I love this scene when they're all sitting for breakfast, and he's just sitting there having coffee, and you know, he's just watching everybody's going. He just watches everybody goes. He just watches everybody go after each other, and he's sitting, like, idly by. And it's like, this is kind of amusing. I'm glad I did this. and I really like that scene. There's numerous scenes, and also how the King was used. I think, because earlier on in the book, we see his name, we hear his name, but we never have him in any scenes. It's only later half of the book, I would say chapter 12 he shows up, or chapter 10 he shows up. And I really, really love that. Yeah. I like that usage of the King, because he's doing stuff. He doesn't have to be there. He just, he's there, and that has everybody a little bit more on edge. And I'm not sure that the author, Chakraborty, intended for the King to come off this cool. I think that, I don't know, but I'm guessing she thought that he wrote, I'm going to use the King as this big evil person, and he's going to be evil, and that's and everybody would want to see him, like, outed. I didn't feel like that at all. I didn't want him to be outed.
I agree.
I didn't think he was evil at all. I think he was a king in a position that he didn't want to be in. He didn't want to be in this position. And he's like, look, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. People are dying. You think I like doing this? I don't. Mm-hmm. And it didn't come off to me when he was speaking like that in the City of Brass. I didn't think he was lying or being like ulterior motives. I honestly think that he was speaking truth. Like, look, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I want to be off doing my own thing. I don't want to be. And when you hear that he never leaves the kingdom, it makes sense that, yeah, I don't want to be here, dude. I don't want to make these rules, but I have to do this. We have to do this because there's so much other things going on. And at the end, he was right. He was right at the end, because we hear in scenes in the book, no tribe is squeaky clean. No tribe is squeaky clean in this. Everyone has a role to play. Everyone has a little dirt on them. Everyone, right? Every tribe had a little dirt on their hands. So he was right. He was right. And I'm gonna miss him. I really, really am. He's so cool. He's so cool.
He was a very cool character.
Yeah.
I'll have to disagree with you on saying like Chakraborty wrote him to be just sort of just evil. I don't think so. I think that was actually a huge check mark for me, was his character development in this book, because we see different parts of him.
Yeah.
We see how he was when he was like courting his second wife. He built that whole plaza for her to feel back at home.
Yeah.
Like, how sweet is that? That's so sweet. Which is not something that we associate with him.
Yeah.
And he gets on a level with Nahri that like she can actually like talk to him at, he's terrifying because he holds all the control in the kingdom. He's the king. And I don't agree that those were like the decisions he made were the only decisions he could have made. Like, I feel like he sort of laid a path for himself and continued along it. And there are some things that he could have done differently that would have been better for the kingdom, but because he was so far gone, if you will, like he may have been a good man at one time.
I don't think he was
reflect that.
I don't think he was ever far gone. I didn't get that at all in the book. I
don't mean in the sense of like he's gone crazy.
Yeah.
I just mean like, you make a choice to do this thing, and then you make a choice to do this thing, and because you've made those two choices, now you have to make the choice to do this thing.
But
kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like he's gone down that path.
But the only reason he goes down that path is because there's 500,000 tribes, and they all want to kill each other for different reasons. So he has to make a very difficult choice. Is it often the correct choice? No. But I look at it like
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I'm not trying to say like, because when we talk about like being a king and like all the decisions that you have to make as one, obviously, it's complex, and I like that was shown in this. Yeah. Because sometimes I feel like, when you write in these characters and you write like political intrigue into the urban fantasy, it can get a bit of black and white and that sort of stuff, and it's like we see,
especially in this book. Yeah. And when you're talking about and making allusions,
nice. I liked that character development. I liked how he was written. I think he was written really well. I honestly don't have anything bad to say about how the king was written. I think he's bad. Huge check mark for me. He's badass.
I'm gonna miss him.
I wouldn't like him as a person.
I like him as a person. I mean, I like him. I would sit down with him.
Yeah, but not after he's like slaughtered a couple hundred kids on a melting boat. Like, no, thank you.
Well, I mean, I thought I looked at that scene very differently. There's obviously allusions that I'm not going to go into here because it's politics and I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's the Tanzine to me are a radical guerrilla group in Deavabad. I can make names to a lot of different groups. I'm not gonna do that, but they're akin. That's what I took to the akin of that, and I thought that scene was brutal. That description was brutal, yes, but he had a very difficult choice, and I don't. Sometimes choices are brutal, and sometimes a lot of people are gonna die, and being a king, you have to, like I said, I love the decisions. I love the king himself because he has to weigh so many things. And if he stopped to think about it, then one tribe would do something and make something up, and he can't have that. He can't. Sometimes you have to get messy. Sometimes you have to get brutal. Is it great? No. I don't think he enjoyed that decision at all. Yeah, let's kill couple thousand kids. I don't think he liked that at all, but he doesn't. Would I like for that to have some preference in the book, where a couple of moments where he's just thinking about it and he's just sorry he did that? No, because I mean the king, that the way he was written, like I said, was perfect, and sometimes kings have to do that, especially in this book when you're talking about like the Arab culture and that kind of stuff. You can trace this back to events that are happening in real time, and that's why I like the king.
Yeah, I mean, all I'll say to that is, drawing parallels towards extremist groups, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
In this circumstance, in terms of the book, those people exist as a symptom of a city that's stepping on its populace. You have a class of people that are kept down, and so that's going to happen.
Yeah.
People are going to form unions, they're going to form whatever you want to call it, and stand up and do what they can to fight for their life.
Yeah.
Because that's all they can do. Why would you expect them to not do that?
Yeah.
The reaction to that is that, something that makes a lot of sense to me? No, because it just incites more violence.
Yeah.
But I think that's what part of the book is trying to kind of show as well, right? Like we talked about this last time. It's really interesting in that it doesn't show just a black and a white. It is like, okay, well, these people are ruling class and like they're doing this stuff and it's, it's bad. But then there's the thought of like this other stuff happening, and it's like it's not so cut and clear. It's not so cut and dry, and that's what I like. It brings up those ideas. It brings up those things, and I think this one really does show like, okay, well, violence begets violence begets violence begets violence. It's just a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
So what do you have to do to break that cycle?
Yeah.
And here are these two characters. You've got Nahri and Ali.
Yeah.
Who are these exemplars of, goodwill, I guess, or like people trying to make the world a different place by caring about it rather than by violently taking what should be theirs or whatever, right? And they're both of different sides of these warring clans, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's very purposefully done.
Yeah.
It's very purposefully done to show sort of like these warring heads and people within those. I mean, it's a time-honored trope for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Like we've got Romeo and Juliet, which is a base level, but like it brings up different questions. It allows you to talk about those sort of ideas and concepts and frustrations and all that sort of stuff within a fantastical sense, which I think is actually like this goes beyond just this book. I think just being able to talk about those sort of things outside of a reality that is yours is super important for people like developing and growing and thinking and learning. A lot of the books I like tend to touch on those sort of things so that you can think about it without having your own biases or always your biases. But without having, oh, well, my, uncle is that. So it's like, well, my uncle's not Jinn. He's not a genie, right? So I can't possibly think that. So now I've got to think outside of those terms.
Yeah.
Anyway. Big jump outside there. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, this is the stuff we have to talk about because it's literally in the book. So.
Yeah, it's right there. I think that's sort of the pull of these books. Really, is that sort of stuff. It talks about wider things.
Yeah, because I mean, in the Middle East, there's a lot of tribes there's a lot of cultures that hate each other, and we talked about this in the City of Brass. It's not simple as people like, oh, it's black and white. No, there are generations of people hating each other, and it's more complicated than, oh, I don't like you.
Yeah, I mean, last time we sort of touched on that, and in that month that it's taken us to get from book 1 to book 2, I mean, look what's happened in Afghanistan. So, like our channel doesn't talk about politics and outside events and that sort of stuff. We're purely based on the books and fantasy novels and that sort of stuff.
I think we made that warning, like in City Brass, and I apologize if not making this warning. Stuff that we have rules for a reason. However, when we talk about this book and the contrast between this and the Middle East, we're gonna have to talk about some things, and we apologize for that. If you're just coming for entertainment, so. But we have to talk about it because it's a big part of the book.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's just like...
It's like, okay, let's not talk about this.
That's part of the really great things about this book and about these books is that it brings those things to light, you know? And it brings it to light in a sense of not like... Because I think it's really difficult for people to wrap their heads around world politics. And I don't mean to say that in like a... talking down way. I mean in a way of like, I a lot of the time avoid reading the news. I know I'm going to get the news no matter what, but I avoid reading the news because it's always negative, because that's what sells. And it's freaking depressing, and I don't need any help being depressed. So, so it's difficult to be immersed in that and not be... and really honestly be a functioning human being. So it's when you have books like this that address those sort of things, but place it in a world that you don't have to deal with on your day to day. Place it in an imaginary world. You can have, I guess, the luxury of thinking around those bigger philosophical, there we go, questions and ideas and topics without it having to be, oh, my next door neighbor's cousin. Or, oh, you know what I mean? Like it's removed from you, and so you can have a little bit more leeway with how you adventure through those sort of ideas. Which is part of the reason why I love fantasy so much. It's a great escape, but it also is a great way to actually reconnect with the world around you in different ways.
All right, so what's your next check mark?
Because my last check mark was also character development as the king of Gaston. So what's your next check mark?
Oh, so my next check mark is what I touched upon in the City of Brass. I love how no one tribe is clean. They all have shades of gray. And I like that. And I appreciate that because that's alluding to, hey, the Middle East has all these cultures, all these different Muslim beliefs, and all these different tribes. And no one tribe has a clean hand, right? All of them hate each other, but they're for very specific reasons, right? And it's very complicated. And I love how she brings that into the book. And how no one tribe is truly, truly good. They're all shades of gray. And we find out a lot of them, a lot more than them, have more shades of gray to them than what we previously thought. So that's, I love that. I think that was handled tactfully, and I thought that was handled well, and that's my last check mark.
Oh, yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, that's my last check mark.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I do have a couple more check marks.
Okay.
So I'll run sort of through
Yeah.
the ones that I have. They're not awfully in depth. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I agree with you. I think part of what makes these books so readable is that they are realistic in that sense. You know, there isn't. We keep on going back to this. There isn't that black and white.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gray. So I totally agree with you there. Okay, sorry. I didn't write my check marks and X's in order this time.
Yeah, no problem.
Which is super helpful. So I'm like having to search for my checks. Okay, so yeah, you know what? This seems like a really weird thing to say is like my check mark. But I really liked how they wrote the riot at the parade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how they had, it was only 3 people that actually caused so much mayhem. I mean, in and of itself, you can say that's a statement on like gun control laws, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because it's like only 3 guns were required to harm so many people. But within that, Nizreen's death, spoiler alert, again,
Yeah.
you should know by now. But Nizreen's death, she actually dies.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, we don't know what happens in the Empire of Gold. We don't know if she's brought back to life later or not. However, I feel like this one's actually really and truly dead. I feel like this character does die. It's a little bit heart-wrenching because it's like Nahri's only real companion that she feels like she can trust.
Yeah.
So I liked that it's in there because I feel like Chakraborty kind of, you know, has been shying away from that a lot of like killing off her characters or even just like adding in too much of that. So I liked how the riot was written. It felt realistic. It felt right within the climate that she's created in the book. And the other check marks that I have in here, I have 2 others.
Yeah, no problem. Maybe you'll spark a check mark that I forgot. It happened before.
Maybe. So what I did like was that we got a little bit more of the Merid lore, you know, how and how humans and these mythical beings, how they intersect. I liked that we saw a little bit of that. It did feel a little exposition-y because they were like explaining how to do this thing, but we did see it. It was cool. I liked seeing more of that. Maybe a little bit more might have made a bit more sense because you know, we saw like a dream where Dara is like going through the water and it wasn't really explained very well. But we did get to see more of it. So I did like that. And then the last thing that I have here is we got to see a little bit more of the scenery.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I say that's a check mark. I feel like it wasn't used as much as it should have been, but I really liked how we got to see the hospital kind of come to life with Nahri being there, and how the gardens in there, they're really like, because the gardens are very much a Nahid thing, and so we see that she has at least that control within the kingdom, you know? Because it's very much, she's very much shut away. She's very much, you know, closeted. Back, but she has these gardens and she's got her own private spaces, and she you know, has that power within there, and we see that power sort of blossomed within that. So I really like seeing that. I wish there was more. I honestly really, really wish that we had seen more of that. That was a bit of an X for me, was that we didn't see enough, but I did like that there was a little bit more. And that's, the other check mark I have is more character development from Muntadir. So that sort of goes hand in hand with Ghassan. I feel like we got some more character development from those 2, which was nice. It was good to see.
All right.
But yeah, fire away if you found any check marks that I may have. I
forgot to mention this check mark. I'll mention it quickly. Very Game of Thronesy, this book. It's very Game of Thronesy, very political intrigue in this book. And I really, really like that. Now, many people may be put off with that because if you're not into that, you're like, if you didn't like Game of Thrones, then you're not going to like this book because this is very political heavy.
Honestly, like if you didn't like Game of Thrones, then I don't think you'll actually pick up the book in the first place.
Yeah,
and if you do pick up the first book, you probably won't pick up the second.
Yeah,
if
that's true. Yeah,
if that's where it's going, right?
Yeah,
because it's very clear that these books sort of go along that path.
But it's very heavy. There's only a couple big action set pieces in the book, and it's more of a political chess game in this book, which I really appreciated and I really liked. So that's gonna be my last check mark. Yeah, that's gonna be my last check mark.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, let's get into the action.
All right. Okay.
I feel like me and you are both on track with this.
Yeah.
So my first ex.
Oh no! Wait!
Okay.
Yeah, you did the check marks. I have to just lead off with the X's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to jump in? Do you want to jump into the X?
Go.
Okay.
You clearly want to start.
Yeah. I do. Okay, I'm gonna start. Banu Manaiza.
What?
Bantu Manaiza.
Oh.
So she shows up in the book, okay?
Yeah.
And she's like, Nari's my daughter. We never know why, how did this happen? And she never explains it. She's like, she's my daughter. How? What happened? Can you no? Okay, just take. And then we could see, yeah, she is your daughter. We do. How does she end up in Egypt? She never explains that, for one. I saw her this manipulating evil character from a mile away. Ever since she said her first lines in the book. Just that phrase. And yeah, I just don't, I just couldn't stand her. Being so cryptic in the book and not explaining herself. You have to explain your main villain. I mean, there's so much things that you set up in the first book. Okay? And in the second book, Deavabad, like, I'm gonna follow you. And then he finds out really how evil this woman is. He's like, oh my god. And I'm like, you're such a fucking idiot. It's like, there's numerous times in the book. It's like, oh yeah. And she's speaking so carefully. And yeah, she's leading you to demons, to the Ifrit. And you're like, okay, I'm going to follow her. Like, you're such a fucking idiot, dude. In the book.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like her, and I couldn't stand her in the book. I thought she was written so terribly bad. Terribly, is that a word? Just so bad. We never got any explanation. So fucking cryptic. Not an explanation on how she dumped her fucking daughter in Egypt. It's just and how Deavabad didn't say, yeah, that's great. Can I ask you something? Sure, shoot. Your daughter. Yes. Do you really care about her? And if you do, why did you leave her in fucking Egypt? So that's my first ex. Her.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even have her on my list, to be honest, because there was a whole bunch of other shit that I was just pissed off about.
Yeah.
But I will bounce off of, Deavabad being an idiot.
Yeah.
It frustrated me
so
much that he's brought back to life, which is like, oh, big surprise. You know what I mean?
And that's never really, that's really never explained as well. I mean, yeah, you have the mark off you.
They just kind of like give it up to like, oh yeah, magic.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. What?
So I don't know. I think it's like a Ifrit. I don't know. It's not explained.
And then he can't see the city because he's a full-blooded. His powers got
because
bullshit. I'm like, that's
doesn't have
I mean,
blood or something like that. Which I think that sort of makes sense because he's supposed to be like as the Ifrit are or were or something, right? Like he's brought back to before Suleiman's seal, so it makes sense that he can't go into the city. I mean, like in a plot way, you have to have something be sort of. But
that's never explained that he's a full-blooded Ifrit in the book. He just thinks like, oh, I'm, and then Banu Manai is like, you're just somebody now with full power, and that mark, that seal, kind of taken off you. You're a full jinn now. He's like, I never got the sense in the book. Oh, he's an Ifrit, and he can't like. He's just he annoys the fuck out of me. He's a fucking idiot in the book.
Yeah, I mean, he annoys me. I think just the thing with, like, the city thing, it's explained in book one how, like, the city is protected by some sort of magic or whatever that keeps out all of those, like, mythical beings.
Yeah.
And Dara is basically made into one of those mythical beings.
Yeah.
So he can't enter into the city.
He should have put two and two together, though. He should have put, like...
Right? So it's like, I mean, he was, like, emotional. So he went over to the city, but he was sad he couldn't get in or something.
Yeah.
But what pisses me off more about him is you would have thought, with all of his, like, reflecting and all this sort of shit, from what he went through with Nahri, of, like, that whole big, emotional and character arc of him being like, oh, maybe Shafid are okay after all. And, like, things are more complex, and I can't believe that, like, I was so young and I was just following orders, but I see now that those orders were really just terrible.
Yeah.
And, like, I did all these horrible, horrible things.
Yeah.
So, like, he had this whole big revelation, and then he just goes and repeats himself again.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating, because it's like... He's written as this, like, complex character, but his actions do not reflect that.
Yeah.
Because he's literally back with his, or what, was he even, I can't remember. But he's, like, back with the Nahids.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, okay, I am an action, or whatever, even though he's technically not anymore. He's not even bound by anything.
Yeah.
But, like, he's got this idea of honor. But he's questioned this honor so many times of, like, okay, well, is it really honor from just blindly following rules? And then it's like, and then he discovers that, Meneze is unleashing this god-awful disease, basically, that only seeks out the Katanis. And he's, like, horrified by it. He understands that he's like, okay, by doing this, we're no better than them.
Yeah.
Yet he follows along with it anyway.
Yeah.
It's like he has these, like, half thoughts of, like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. And then he completely ignores it and just is, like, a blind slave. And it's so annoying because we had all of this character development for him. And it's like, I wrote here, I said, it would be tragic, him basically repeating himself.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel so stunted.
Yeah.
Because it's not tragic. It's not like a tragic tragedy or whatever. It's just stupid. And I hate it.
He's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot. Like, I can't stand him. Yeah.
Like, I could make so many arguments for him in the last book. Like, it's like, okay, there are some things that he did stupidly or whatever, but, like, okay, fine. But this one, it's just like, seriously?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do. Like, oh my God. And you've been given this, like, uncontrollable power.
Yeah.
Like, you've been given
boo-hoo,
like, you're just throwing it away.
Yeah.
Because what? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. So, like, I hated it. Anyway, you're next.
I agree. All right, so okay. My next X
Yes.
in the book. All right, in the book, I will give the book praise for tackling what's happening in the Middle East and making those allusions to the tribes and everything. But I will not give it credit for this one thing in the book. All right, in the book, and I think the author knew it was a mistake because we only read about it a couple of times. There is a homosexuality implication in the book. All right.
It's more than an implication.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here.
Okay. Montevideo is gay.
Yeah, gay. No,
sorry.
well, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean.
Okay, cool.
It's they're gay. They're gay. But in doing this, okay, you have to make sure you handle this stuff tactically and very respectfully, because in the Muslim culture, and I'm not going to go through this too much, it's much more complicated. There's deep held beliefs. All right, it's rightly or wrongly. I'm not saying I'm not rightly or wrong. I'm right, really, but rightly or wrongly, these are very held deeply religious beliefs. Okay, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying rightly or wrongly. Okay, if you're going to do this in the book, you have to make sure you handle it in a way that is that's well done. Okay, and I don't think this book handled it in that way. I think this is something that, I mean, you're throwing so much in the book already. Throwing more things and that kind of stuff in the book. I just think you needed to handle it better, and you didn't, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. And that's my next X.
Well, okay. So with this, I think it was personally, I would have liked to have seen just like gay relationships being happy.
Yeah.
In here, like, obviously it's a plot device, yada yada.
Yeah.
But how it reads, like, I mean, you can read it as, shall we say, Munjadu is gay.
Yeah.
He wants to be with Shamshid. We know
Yeah.
this isn't going to happen because he's got whatever.
Yeah.
Like royal duties or something like that, and it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing: is that I recognize that she's writing for a Muslim audience.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that, like, you can't have, like, she's clearly putting in gay characters.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely phenomenal. Good job.
I agree. Yeah.
And it's a good way of putting it in there as, like, hey, this exists. There's nothing wrong with it. However, how it's written is there's definitely something wrong with it.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So it sort of sends that, it sort of reinforces that feeling alongside Muntadir also being, like, yes, he's sort of complex and he's sort of redeemed in, like, the battle and all that sort of stuff, but it's like, he's still the person that's defending, like, slave traders. So, you know, like, he's still the person that's, like, following in his father's footsteps. Like, so it's like, it's frustrating because we have this, I mean, Jamshid is also the opposite of it. So, I mean, anything that I say for this can also be flipped on its head. Being like, okay, well, he's not necessarily a villain, but like a complicated villain character. And there's a history of gay characters in film and in media, and it's frustrating because it's like, okay, if the only gay character is going to be a villain, then what the fuck's the point?
Yeah.
Because you're just using this to paint gay people in a bad light. And the thing is that like there are like it's not that gay people didn't exist.
Yeah.
And there are lots of poetry and lots of written works in major languages of the Muslim world, like from the modern era all the way back to like 8th century, like BC or whatever. So it's not that it didn't exist, and I recognize that walking on eggshells around this is frustrating for a lot of people because they're recognizing within their like things are different in the Middle East because things are so I don't want to say because of anything.
Yeah.
Obviously shit's different over there. I mean, like, you can say the same for, like, shit's different for gay people in Texas, right? Like, so it's, in the culture, there is LGBTQ plus in the culture, and there's a healthy culture of that, but it is not how it should be, and it's frustrating for a lot of people. And so, of course, when you're writing about this stuff, it makes it a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Personally, I think she did it fairly well. I think, making two of your, not necessarily major characters, but two of your, major roles, like big roles in the book.
Yeah.
Secondary characters at least. They're like making them gay, great. That's awesome. I love to see that, especially knowing that this is crossing boundaries in a lot of different ways, just in being a mainstream text, a mainstream fantasy in the Muslim culture. So like I like to see that. I don't think it was necessarily done poorly. I think it was done quite tactfully, actually. Like she didn't include like raunchy sex scenes.
No, yeah.
She honestly included like a really heartbreaking and very sweet little kiss.
And I
like had Jamshid be this like honorable person. So I think it was done well. But we can have different opinions.
So yeah, I guess I should like rephrase, because I was trying to like choose my words carefully on this. I wasn't quite upset that was in the book and a way it was handled. The parallels I would make is she does so good job in not painting any one tribe with any sort of black and white like paint job, and I would have appreciated if she did the same thing to this issue in the book, right? Because it's
How do you mean?
Like, because one tribe, right? Any one tribe in the book, we discussed this, not painted with any sort of black and white, like, kind of paint job. They all have a little bit of dirt on their hands. And in the Muslim faith, this is a much more complicated and deeply rooted belief, right? So I would have loved to have that explored if she was going to put that in the book. Like, hey, this is what it is, but it's much more complicated than black and white. So I would love to explore a little bit more of that in the book.
I disagree, but only in the sense of, like, I don't know how much you want to dive into, like, the politics of LGBTQ plus people in this religion, in a fantasy world,
right,
while still making it believable and enjoyable to read.
Right, and that's why
a relatively good job of presenting how it's currently and even in the past, like, royals could get away with a lot more than, other classes could. And there's definitely people that, they have their concubines, they have their people over here. We don't talk about how they have their very special friend. Like, we don't talk about that. And that's true of a lot of cultures. That's not just true of Islam, So I think, like, to be so delicate around it, obviously this is a culture that neither of us are from. So we can't speak on any
for sure
expertise on it, right?
Like,
and I know it's different, and we see it as different because it's not. We don't see LGBTQ plus people having the same rights as they have here, which is wrong. But like, it's it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of things that are happening that aren't right, and again, we're not diving into all those conversations. I think what she did here was she did present the fact of, like, you know, the king knowing, and like people knowing, like not necessarily everybody, because they like kept it a secret, kept it hush hush, but people knew.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it was not like celebrated. They weren't like, oh my gosh, my new son, welcome to the family. No, it was like, well, you're going to be king, so I can't like outrightly defame you, but like make sure it's not an issue, kind of thing. And I feel like that's more realistic than, you know, him being like slogged out on the street for being found out about it or something like that.
Well, that's...
And I think their secrecy goes towards that. You know, I don't think they really need to drive home the point. Like, I think it's kind of obvious to a lot of people where things are, and I don't think this needs to be the text that dives into, you know, all the issues and how it is. But like, respectfully, I disagree that she didn't do a good job of presenting it.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Like, I 100% agree with you. And that's why, for those reasons, I don't think it should have been in the book whatsoever. I mean, either do it, you did it, you dive into it in this complicated issue, or you just don't do it. Because there's so much going in the book that I don't think...
Well, see, then you don't agree with me, because you're missing my point. Like, I think she did a good job of presenting it as like as characters, as like just people existing in the book as they are, which is great. It's awesome. It's good to see characters like that.
Yeah.
I'd rather see gay characters in the book and not have it be written perfectly, rather than not have them be present whatsoever and just pretend like they don't exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's better to do it, and do it maybe not as good as you can, because let's be honest, she's not the greatest writer.
No.
You know, so like, my expectations of how she's going to present these sort of big topics, she's done a really great job of, you know, I guess dancing around these massive theological and like political difficulties. So I think she does a good job of dancing around having gay people in the book too. You know, it's not directly said like, these people are bad, these people are bad, and they're at war. No, it's just the political climate that she's created in the book. So I think it's believable. I think it's done well. I think it should be there. I liked reading that too, because I was like, oh, thank God. You know, like, at least there's some representation.
That's true.
Anyway,
we can agree.
Anyway, we can probably talk ourselves down.
We can agree to disagree. I was just agreeing on some of your very good points that you made at the caveman, but we can agree to disagree. So that's my X. What is your next X?
My next X. I mean, I realize I have a bunch. But like.
Hello?
Okay. How they ended the book.
Yeah.
It pissed me off so much. So, first of all, the battle, which is like just before it ends, right?
Right.
I was so frustrated that like we have this palace interacting with the Nahids, and like very clearly being like for them and against the Katanis. And we really didn't see a lot of it. Like, I think there was one moment where they're running and like a wall appears or something like that and helps them. But like outside of that, nothing really happens, and it just doesn't seem right that nothing should happen. We've also got like all these old bodies of the Nahids like hiding in the basement. We know they're there. Yeah. It's being talked about in the first book. Yeah. It wasn't brought up again in the first book, and it's like, what the fuck, okay? And like, again, it's not touched on at all in the second book. Like, I'm wondering what the fuck's gonna happen in the third book, because it's like, there's a bunch of like loose ends of just like, I feel like there are these ideas of stuff that could have been really cool and interesting, but maybe it was just like way too much to get into. I don't know. But like, they're totally not being used. It's so frustrating. And then like the ending entirely, like that she puts the ring on Ali's finger because I think she's like worried. She's like, she knows secretly that she is Shafiq. And so she's like, okay, well, maybe I can't actually wear the ring. Maybe there is something to that. And she has that little bit of self-doubt. I think that's slightly believable. But then she goes and jumps off the fucking building.
Yeah.
Like, what? No. What?
Yeah.
Like, it seems so ridiculous. I mean, I guess the other option is like a showdown with her mom, which she knows she's not going to win or something. But like, it's so absolutely ridiculous that she would just jump off the roof. And then we're planted it's like, okay, all the magic is fading away. So Muntadir is no longer like graciously dying. It's like, okay, cool. Another person who we thought was going to die isn't going to actually die. Surprise. But like the magic's going away. The city's crumbling. All of a sudden they're in Egypt. And then the book ends.
Yeah. Okay, bye, everybody. We'll see you next.
Right? Like,
it's like, what?
I feel
What?
like we could have skipped a whole bunch of stuff in the middle of this book and jumped right to that and had way more fascinating stuff happen. But like, okay, so here's the thing. I like where it's headed.
Yeah.
It asks a lot of questions. It's like, oh, what the fuck's happening there? That's interesting. I want to learn more. So I want to read the next book. But the way that it's done, it's very much a cliffhanger. And it just pisses me off so much when books do that because it's so very clear. It's like, ooh, read the next book. It's like, yeah, well, of course I got to go and read the next book now because you ended it like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just pissed off. I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. You added in all this bullshit. You could have started the next book like that. You could have been like, okay, they jumped off. We don't know what happened. End.
Yeah.
But you added all this shit in, which sounds interesting and sounds cool, but there's no explanation whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's like, hi, peace, out. And it's just like, oh my God. It pissed me off so much.
Yeah,
So much.
I agree. It's like, okay, bye. It's like, what?
I almost threw my book across the room, I swear to God.
Yeah.
Like, it was so irritated.
So, I think this is going to be my last X.
Okay.
My last X is Ali. I don't care what you do to this character. I don't care what you have him say. He's still a fucking idiot to me. And I don't like him. He's an idiot. He just pisses me off in the book so much. I wish that, his dad killed him numerous times.
Woo!
In the book.
Some serious hate there.
Yeah. I didn't like him. I don't like him.
Is there like particular reasons why you don't like him, or
he's
like
he's just plain. He's like, oh, I'm gonna help you. This character, it's like, oh, I'm gonna help you, and I want to help you, and there's nothing memorable about me on this just person that swore off sex, and I don't like women, and it's just, I just don't like anything about the character. Nothing about this character interests me whatsoever. Please die. Please die. Please get murdered.
You know what? I think we're going to see a whole lot more of him in the third book, too, so I'm sure you're going to love that.
But yeah, that's my last X.
Oh, my God. You know what? I do have a couple other X's. But, okay, I'll sort of combine them all. There's a lot of unanswered questions in here.
Yeah. Oh, that's,
I mean, I know that was sort of like one of my last X's, but like there's a lot of unanswered questions.
That's
like,
true.
These ex-slaves that are living in the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay. Like no explanation for that. They're just existing and like no one cared about that. Like there's not like they just, what the fuck? You know, like, okay, sure. That just is there. And there's Zainab. She gets like shipped off to get married to someone, or like not married, but like or like, you know, potentially married to someone.
Yeah,
and that's just like thrown in there and not brought up at all. I feel like she's going to come back in the third book and be like a super powerful character.
Yeah.
But like they don't address it at all.
Yeah.
It's just sort of seen as this like thing that Ghassan did to like hurt Ali. Meanwhile, like it's still his daughter. Like he still loves her, and it's just like so frustrating. It's like, okay, so we're just not going to talk about that. That's cool, fine, no problem. Like what the fuck? And also like it just felt flat.
Yeah.
It just really felt flat. Like reading this book, I didn't reread it because I didn't want to reread it, to be honest. But it wasn't super memorable. Like I had to review like a synopsis again just to remind myself of what happened. And I knew like certain things happened, and then other things I'm like, oh right, yeah, there was that thing. Oh yeah. And it just felt super flat. Yeah. Like I don't know. There was like there are definitely some high points in it. There are definitely, as we talked about, and as is obvious of our conversation, like there's a lot of discussion to be had from the book. You know, like I feel like it touches on a lot of topics and all that sort of stuff, but it just felt so flat. Yeah. It just meh. Yeah. You know, and I can't get over that. That's a big X for me because it's like no matter what sort of things you can do on pro and con, if your overwhelming feeling of a book is kind of meh, like what? Like I'm gonna agree with you, and that's gonna be like that. I'm gonna jump in there. I'm gonna add my 2 cents to this. There is a lot of unanswered things in the book, and I was hoping you mentioned it. I was going to mention because I wanted your time to shine as well. But yeah, that's you're welcome, LB. You're whimsical for a reason. That's my other problem with the book. There's a lot of unanswered questions, like she has a brother. I like Bandu Manaiza. I have a son. What? Who from who? And that raises other questions. Okay. Oh no, that's answered though. It's Kave's son. It's Jamshid. It's brother. Yeah. Right? That's true. Yeah. But it's like what I mean is, all right, so who is your daughter's father? Like, where is he? Right? Kave. No. Is Kave her father as well? Yeah. I thought so. I thought that was sort of like I don't think so. Inferred thing because he's so like protective over her, not just as like that's what I read into it. But like I could be wrong. Yeah. I'm pretty sure though Kave fights her in the book though. He argues with her in the book. Okay, so you think I don't argue with my pops? Like no. I mean, like it's. I mean, if that was inferred in the book, I didn't get that. I didn't get Kave was Bandu Nahida's father. I didn't get that at all. And if that was the case, why would, like I said, why was she in Egypt? Why did they take her from Egypt? Why did they plant her in Egypt? And the other thing is, there's a Shafi doctor? I'll just go over what? There's a lot of other unanswered things in the book that Chakraborty never really explains in the book, and I 100% agree with you. It would have to be my ex as well. And when you're talking about this book, I'm gonna agree with you as well. I'm gonna put that in my X as well. I'm gonna make that 2 as 1 as well. One X, but 2 negative things. The book is very boring. Very boring. Right? Which it's weird because you're talking. I mean, like there's not an awful. Which is weird because we have a lot of different opinions of the book, right? And our check marks and X's. Like we can have like this whole big conversation around it, but like the actual book in and of itself, I was disappointed because I was really looking forward to the second one because I enjoyed the first one, it was like, it was an easy read. It was fast. Like we recommended it last time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, it's a complex book, but I was looking forward to the second one. I was like, okay, it should be a fun read.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. I'm going to enjoy this. And like, I finished it and I was like, well, okay.
Mm-hmm. Something better
Yeah,
happen.
frustrated.
Damn it, in the third
Right?
book.
So
The moon.
the thing is that there's so many unanswered questions
Yeah.
and so many like loose ends
Yeah.
that I feel like the last book could be
Mm-hmm.
really freaking cool.
Yeah.
Because she's left a lot of these little things along the way.
Mm-hmm.
However, what my gut is telling me is they're just going to be these things that are like little loops that never get picked up.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we even had Dara, he has his like, his relic
Yeah.
is in the basement of the palace or something like that. And so like, I thought, Ali was going to tell Nahri and we were going to bring Dara back and there was this whole big thing, but we don't even touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets brought back to life as a different thing entirely. So maybe that's going to actually come into play in the third book and he's going to be made into like a djinn again.
Yeah.
What is this back and forth on that stuff?
Yeah.
That's confusing. We got all these dead bodies that we're literally not even talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hello.
Yeah.
And it's just, like we didn't see any of the other magical and mythical beasts that we saw in the first book.
Yeah.
We only
That's
saw
true.
the
That's
Marid
true.
and the
Yeah.
Ifrit. Like the birds are nowhere to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like what the fuck's going on with that? It's so frustrating. So I honestly don't think she's gonna tie up all those loose ends. I don't think it was written. This is gonna sound mean, but I don't think it was that cleverly written.
Yeah.
I don't think she's gonna go back and be like, remember this little tidbit of here? Well, haha, it's coming back in this section. And I just don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna be like something that she kind of forgot she wrote about, and we're gonna forever be frustrated by it.
Yeah.
But I could be proved wrong. You never know. The Empire of Gold could be a freaking amazing book.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It could be the Empire Strikes Back of books.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, what are you saying?
Recommend,
do not recommend? What's your
as much as I had the check marks and stuff, all those check marks could have been easily said about the first book. Could have easily been said about the first book. And I think I said a lot of them in the first book.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna give this book a thumbs down. I'm gonna give this book a thumbs down.
I'm gonna have to agree with you.
No!
I'm gonna give it a thumbs down too. I know we very rarely do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just so many X's. I mean, I probably, looking at my list, I probably have almost equal check marks and X's. But the X's that I have so far outweigh the check marks that I have.
Yeah.
And the check marks that I have, even though they're there, it's sort of like, well, yes, this part was there, but I wish there was more.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So
For
it's
sure.
like, I mean, I'm going to say dependent on the third book. Because if the third book is like a killer, then you're going to have to read the second book to read the third book, right? Like it's going to be one of those things.
There's
In
another...
and of itself,
Yeah.
definitely not. Even as a sequel to the first book, I don't think it's necessary. You can just read the first book and be happy.
Yeah.
Fine.
I think you'd be more than
one,
happy in the
don't
first
recommend.
book. Yeah. There's another X I forgot to mention, and I'm just going to quickly mention here. The book takes for
Pick
me,
him while he's down.
it took a long time to get into. I say chapter 5 I got into it. And that's, for me, that's a while. That's a while. So, I'm giving it a thumbs down. You're giving it a thumbs down. We want to know now what you thought of the Kingdom of Copper down below in the comments section. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with us? I know we had a great debate in our X's, and that's what this show is for. So wait, I gotta get the outro ready. Wait.
We'll catch you next time when we turn the page.
Oh.
Voiceover on.
Damn it.
Photos. Album. Video. July 12th.
There we
Video.
go.
The page. Back button. Video.
You said it. You said it first. We'll see you next time when we turn the page. Damn it, LB. You took my spotlight.
I thought you were going to forget.
Yeah, I did.
Get it in before you had the outro.
I did forget. I did.
Video. Play video. Button. Play video. Voiceover off.
There we go. All right, guys. The next time I'll see you is tomorrow night for a brand new episode of Storytime Aftermath. This is where we clean everything up. All right. Until then, guys, take care, be safe, be well, and we love you guys. 90,000. Peace.